Welcome to the Wonder Woman of Aviation in partnership with Hilo Social Media Marketing. Oscar, thank you for being on the show once again. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, it's always great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, the last time I think we spoke, we were actually virtual, so this is our first in-person interview, so it's exciting.
But we've met each other.
We have. I've actually chased you down the concourse and, said hi before you boarded a plane. Not stalkerish, but... Well, today we're going to talk about a really exciting new endeavor, which is your book. What was the inspiration behind this book, and why was it so important for you to launch this book?
The inspiration and the dedication of the book is to the employees of United Airlines. In my farewell note to the company, I wrote, and I came here to change United, but at the end it changed me. And so that's the arc of the story in essence. And in between is all the wonderful things, all the difficult things that we had to do. And honestly, during the time of COVID, you had a lot of time to reflect about many things. And we were working hard on the CARES Act, and employees were front of mind for me. And so I began to write stories about things that had happened, and it just began to grow and grow. And inevitably it became a book. And it's important because there's a lot of stories that talk about the industry and what it means, how it works. Mm-hmm. It talks about the heroism and the wonderful relationships that people have. And it's like, I don't think the flying public necessarily is aware of that. So I think I say somewhere in the book, it's like, this is for many people, this book, but I hope that some of you will actually learn to love and appreciate all the things that we do in this airline industry.
That you kind of hit right on the nose is basically like your target audience. It's written in a way that I myself as a United employee can definitely identify with the book, the stories. It was like literally reliving a lot of situations, but at the same time you do a great job of explaining the different concepts within the aviation industry. So that was my question, like who was your target audience when you were writing the book? So
I think in general communication, and you do this for a living, you can't assume that everyone that's listening to you understands exactly. And
right.
So I heard this a long time ago, but always speak to the lowest common denominator of knowledge in the room. And so we wanted to write a narrative and a story that was interesting to read, but also when we touched on complicated issues or concepts, to very, very gently describe what they are in simple terms so that people feel part of what we feel and know. This concept of above the wing and below the wing, we don't even think twice about it. But we describe a little bit of that. I describe, the mechanisms of pricing and how we fly and network and all of those things on there. And I think they're done in a subtle enough way that if you have interest, you can actually really comprehend to a certain degree what you need to know.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I was reading it and it was like the visuals were popping out at me. I'm like, you are a great storyteller. So kudos to you and your cohort, Brian, that helped you write this book. Industry. Well, let me take it back. So last time we spoke, my podcast is more about women in aviation, and there's a lot of concepts within the book that focus on the women in your life, and I didn't really truly understand, until I read the book, how important women were in your life. You talk about my favorite chapter, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, was Mama Josefina, which was your maternal grandmother in the book. She was a big influence in your story, which I never knew. That was amazing.
She is an inspiration, an example, a guiding light, and someone who really fueled and charged who I am as a person today and how I make decisions. My maternal grandmother, I grew up with her in Mexico for a few years before I reconnected with my mom, and I thought my grandmother was my mom, and so those formative years were important. But over the years, I saw her work ethic, her loyalty, her absolute desire to help others, and this concept of never really complaining or saying a bad word about anyone. She was a maid at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas, so she didn't have a job. She never really had a home of her own over the years. She lost her husband at a very early age, but she took care of me in a way that made me who I am today. And in really strong, dark moments of crisis that I faced in my business and career, I kind of looked to her as to kind of what she would have done. And we talk a lot about it in that book, and one crucial moment in particular where her voice came back to me to, in essence, do the right thing.
Right, and that's one thing that I love the fact that you incorporated the culture in the book and your upbringing, which you mentioned in the book that was something that you didn't really truly bring up in your journey to becoming, the CEO, becoming your whole journey with your different jobs. I mean, how important is culture to you now? I mean, the fact that you're bringing that up, and why the change?
No, I think, I grew up in a different time where assimilation in this country was important. You didn't walk around and say to people, hey, by the way,
Right.
I'm whatever it is. It just, we weren't as inclusive as a nation. We're getting better at it. But also, I don't have the burden of a large public branded corporation that rest on every word I say that I could harm or damage those relationships with customers, because it's never our intent. I do have now the freedom to speak about these things that I've always wanted to and do different things. So my Hispanic heritage, as I write in the book, and my grandmother and others like her, who influenced the way I think, the way I engage, the way I talk to people,
Right.
the way I treat people like La Familia, like family, are all critical components of how I act as a leader. And the proof point behind its success is what we did at United and the people that we did it. And again, as you know, our company is hugely diverse
Right.
across so many different facets and aspects, but somehow we all bonded together to be able to do this. And so it's a wonderful, for me, a wonderful story of talking about the concept of inclusion without being so specific about Latinos
Right.
or anything. It's just about the power of human inclusion and how we should treat each other, and how that can lead to great things in business and great things in personal lives as well.
Right, and that's one thing I absolutely loved, was hearing your journey, your story, because that was a story that I myself could identify with. It's like, wow, like I'm not the only one that is experiencing these things. So it's definitely a story and a book that tugs at the heart, no pun intended, but you definitely talk about different, experiences and things that you went through, especially through a very difficult time, the transition with the company. So can you talk a little about how important it is for, I guess I'm going to go into just heart health and being aware of, your body?
For all the new folks that had not heard the story, and 37 days into the job, I suffered a nearly fatal heart attack that, over the course of a few weeks and months, required a transplant.
Right.
And so, embedded in that story is just so many topics to discuss, but I love to tell the PSA, and I do in the book as well, with regards to the fact that not only should you take care of yourself, but you should understand and know symptoms and what to do when you feel them, because a lot of times we disregard those symptoms and just keep going.
Right.
And in my particular case, had I avoided what I felt, had I not had a previous awareness and understanding of how to think about my symptoms, I would have laid down or taken a shower,
Right.
and not to be dramatic, I wouldn't have woken up from that nap or gotten
Right.
out of that shower. And so telling that story to people is an important one, because it is served well over the years, because I tell the story a lot, and a lot of people come up to you in
Right.
airports and terminals and everywhere and just say, sometimes in tears, like, you saved my dad's life, or told that to my mom, and all that sort of thing. So that's an important part.
Right.
But we all should take care of ourselves, and certainly watch for the symptoms that emanate from things like heart disease.
Oh, absolutely. And just even I myself was not aware of everything. I mean, you did a great job of grinning and smiling. And, I think you mentioned in the book too that, even shaking people's hands was something that was painful for you. So, I mean, to me, this book was definitely like, wow, this man is a true superhero.
You're the Wonder Woman. I was just blessed to have an amazing amount of support when all this happened, from certainly family and friends, but from the United family. I mean, the outpouring of affection, the outpouring of love and
Right.
support after all that happened. After only
Right.
being here for 37 days, is, I think, another crucial point for the readers to understand that this company, this family of United, what I saw in them in that time frame is what made me come back, and it's what
Right.
made us the success that we are today.
Well, leads me to my other question. You did mention, 37 was an important number. You bring that up, and how important the United family was for you. So you briefly talked about it, but you met different people along your healing journey. How important was that to your recovery? Like, your United really did save your life.
Oh, and there's no question. There's no question. I mean, you're laying in bed and you don't know what's going to happen with you, and then these letters begin to come in from different people that you've never actually met from all over the world, expressing deep emotion about their desire for me to get better, their prayers, their thoughts, their well wishes, and their stories about things that they went through, and to give me support. And so I met many doctors. I think I still have somewhere over 30 amount of physicians that are in my life every day. Not every day,
Right.
but they take care of me. So I got to meet a group of people in that. And importantly, I got to meet a large host of folks that are in the transplant community. They go through all these issues and have many wonderful stories that the lives that they lead still fruitful, and how you can do that after all of this.
Is there one story that still sticks out of all the stories, or even letters, or is there one that really speaks to you to this day?
There were so many. It was there was one interesting where the two children of a couple who both worked for United, and I don't remember their jobs necessarily, but their parents worked for them, and the letter from the kids said something to the effect, Mr. Oscar, we don't know you, but my mom and dad, I've never seen them happier and so excited about their jobs, so please come back. It was one of those little things. And you're reading this, it's like, oh my God. It's like, I can't believe, kids are getting involved in this. And so there were so many touching moments where people were really sharing a lot about themselves in their life. And it was very meaningful and an incredible part of the healing process. One thing I say to folks afterwards, because, we all have many friends and families, and we all have people where things occur to them. And a lot of us say, man, afterwards, like, I wanted to send you a note, but I knew you were busy,
Right.
or I didn't know what to do, or people ask, what can I do for you? It's like, well, I'm in my deathbed, so I don't know that I'm the best person to work through this. And I always urge people, it's like when somebody that you know and love and care for, something's going on, just send them a damn note.
Right.
Send them flowers, send them food, even if it gets thrown away, it doesn't matter. The
Right.
thought was an unbelievable energetic pull, and I think the combination of the United family with their prayers and thoughts for me over that course of time really made a difference.
And it's the fact that you actually took the time to read or have someone read every letter to you, that's amazing.
It became the morning reading at the hospital. Well, my kids read these notes. I mean, that's like, with children, they're everything to you.
Yeah.
And watching them excited and reading these things, it made them really understand why I had done what I did to come here.
Right.
It reinforced the quality of the humans that are here, and it was a very touching moment, and it was really uplifting.
That's amazing. I'm going to shift it into, you said you were a dreamer before. It was basically
Cool to be that way?
Yeah.
Not that it's cool now, I suspect, but it is.
And the fact that you were living in two worlds, and again, that's something I go back to. I can identify with that myself. What advice would you give to future individuals that are pursuing a career in, whether it be aviation or just anything in upper management? Like, what advice would you give them if they're facing any type of adversity?
So we all face adversity. You can complain about it. You can you can ask the question, why am I being mistreated? Why am people are exhibiting bias? Why are people not seeing who I really am? And those are questions that are people ask ourselves. The world is a cruel place, and complaining, talking bad about it just doesn't work. I mean, I think asking the same why question but differently, like, okay, why hasn't my promotion come in? Why haven't I moved? Is there something I should be doing different and better? And there may or may not be good answers to that, but starting with that versus the negative why, I just think it's more healthy to an individual to work through that. And we're all amazed when we actually ask someone the question about, hey, what could I do better, or how could I do something different that would be more impactful?
Yeah.
If you let people actually answer, you'll find that not everything we do all the time is as perfect as we think it is. And I think it's an important thing. And it also opens up people to actually give you advice. My entire life has been people pulling me aside, me somehow opening up to let them do that, and self-correcting things where I was headed the wrong way.
And that's one trait that I definitely admire about you, and the fact that you are open with, your story, with your journey, even seeing you when you were here, walk through the hallways and be very personable with the employees. Like, you just have that very friendly, approachable, and it's in the eyes. You mentioned in the book, it's in the eyes. Like, you have that window of opportunity.
Those are the things that I learned from, as you say, the women in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such just something we do in the Latino world. I mean,
Yeah.
familia, it's just, everyone's a cousin, everyone's an aunt and uncle.
Oh yeah,
And,
everyone's a tío and a tía.
yeah, no, it's just the way it is. And we're always taught to respect our elders, and
Right.
those strong, that heritage and those strong cultural norms helps me do that when I talk with people. Because when you see me, as you say, talking with folks, it is a meaningful conversation. I actually do and am interested. And I think a lot of leaders, go through that motion, and a human being, right? We all can tell when someone is actually talking and listening to us, where someone is just kind of like, oh yeah, that's great. Well, that's so great to
They're
hear
like,
that.
"Ah."
That's what it's like wow, so no, that's overly dramatic. But the concept of truly listening is a learned trait over time, and there's many ways to do it, but it starts from the heart.
No, absolutely. It does start from the heart. And the fact that, you have your family, then you had your United family. So one thing I want to ask, like even to this day, when I do mention, I mentioned I'm going to talk to Oscar, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he was like the best leader ever, and they absolutely adore you to this day. Do you miss that? Do you miss the environment?
One of the leadership things, I talk a lot about this to a lot of different audiences. If you're in love with the adulation and the attention you get as a leader, that's not me. All of that is fleeting. The legacy that you leave as a leader is what endures behind you, that people continue to do. The concept of caring for others, the concept of so many things that we've done at United that to this day follow through. And when, as a leader, you are thinking about yourself and how it makes you look, you don't always do the right things for the greater organization, in my opinion. And so I choose to, I don't miss that necessarily. I miss the people.
Okay.
The work is hard and difficult and never-ending, so I can't say. I've earned that over the course of my life to not have to do that anymore.
Right.
But I miss dearly the people, and when I walk around and see people and we talk and I get to re-engage with people I haven't seen, for you today, all of those are meaningful things, and so I miss that and being able to do a lot to help folks. But as far as the adulation and such, that was never my biggest thing. And I learned that, by the way, by another Latino back in my Coca-Cola days, Roberto Goizueta, who was the chairman there. And he would always kind of pull me aside and say, look at all these folks. They really think they're important because of the title and the role that they play here. It's like, and there's that old phrase, that's what you do, but that's not who you are.
Right.
When you figure out who you are and you stay true to that, it really makes a difference. And it took me some time to do that. I talk a little bit about in the book in the early days when I was over-indexing, trying to be Mr. Super Latino and prove to people that I was indeed smart enough and capable enough to be in the roles that I had. And then when I learned to relax and swing easy, as I call it, my trajectory came even higher because you involved people around you and they were willing to help you.
Right. I think sometimes we do overthink it, and you want to be that image of perfection, and really there is no ideal image of what perfection is.
And perfection is pretty darn hard to achieve.
It absolutely is. Well, if you were to speak, say we're in a room full of employees right now, and what is one piece of advice you would give them?
I think at United or just employees in general?
Well, let's go with United.
Yeah. We rebuilt something here as we merged the two companies, Continental United, and we overcame all the different issues and we turned around the organization. And we did it in a certain way, and we built a level of what I call the new spirit of United. And people talk about us in a very different way, right? We're named to Fortune Most, we advertising it that good leads the way, and all those things. And we still attach to each other in a way that's supportive by and large, and it always goes up and down. My advice is to not lose that, because I don't know that as a company we have another turnaround in us, meaning if we let that go and it gets fragmented and distracted again, can we really rebuild it again? It might be too much for a lot of folks.
Yeah, it was definitely a long and hard journey, and the rebuilding was definitely a big part of your life and who you are, and to keep that legacy alive is definitely important. Well, I'm coming to near my interview, and before I let you go, what would be an elevator pitch? Say your book is going to be a movie. Like, it's the book of the turnaround time, Oscar Munoz. Put your best movie phone voice on. Let's hear your pitch for your book.
It's a human interest story that in today's divided state aims to be more united. And it tells the story of a very simple human being, and as an example to many out there that are just like me, that with the right level of support and help and assistance and work, that many of us can reach the same levels. Whether you're Latino or you're anything, I think it's a little bit of a rags to riches stories, and it is fraught with lessons learned from failure, which is part of life. It is not a book that says, oh, look at me, look at me. It's, look how badly I screwed this up and what I learned from it kind of thing. And I think it's a wonderful story. Again, it's probably one of the longest love letters to United employees that you might want to have. So hopefully people enjoy it.
Oh, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the book. It was poetic. It was humorous. It was like, you know, the fact that you compared the NOC to the Starship Enterprise, I was like, oh my gosh, that was probably my favorite quote in the book. I'm like, he's a nerd. Which, you know, for those of you that are, you know, into nerdy stuff, definitely read the book. Well, Oscar, thank you for being on my podcast, The Wonder Woman of Aviation, in collaboration with Hilo Social Media Marketing. I know you have a very busy schedule. What is next for Oscar before I let you go?
Well, you know, the book drops soon, and there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
But as I like to tell people when they ask me, because like, hey, what are you doing, and all that stuff, listen, I'm healthy, which is important. I'm really busy, and I'm happy. And so it's along those lines. Continue to stay healthy, continue to stay busy, and you know, I have a chance to do a lot of work in a lot of places with all the things that I'm doing, and it keeps me energized. And I think I said I miss the people. I have found a series of other institutions all over the country where I have, you know, new people, so to speak. Never forgetting my family here whatsoever, where I'm able to have these conversations, help in every way I can, and so that will continue.
Awesome. Well, thank you. For those of you listening to the podcast, the book drops on May
2nd.
And where can they find it?
Anywhere that sells books, and also Amazon and all those different things. And my website, I'm sure you'll put it up on your thing.
I will definitely put the links up.
And you can also pre-order, which is, I think, probably the easiest thing, because
yes.
They're soon to be sold out, they heard. No,
I
I'm
know.
kidding.
You know, I've already had people that I've told the book about, they're already got their pre-orders. Like, they're like, I'm pre-ordering. I'm like, let me know what you think of it, and I'll let him know. Well, Oscar, thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
All right.